Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre. This is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and shows.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is we'll do it live. Time goes in, time goes out. Never miscommunication.
It's over 9,000. My name is Foxy.
The balls are in there.
Don't face me, bro. It's a trap. I'm a flying believer. Time to Hey, Charlie, wake up.
Oh, God, oh, man.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Nerd to Know Basis Show, airing on Phoenix 92.5 FM and all those other wonderful places on the internet, such as Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course our own website. I am Cian, and once again, Dara is with me with a whole bunch of films he's seen. Dara, how are you getting on?
I'm good. Ahoy! A whole bunch of films. I was just in the cinema like a lot this week. Like uncharactered. Like I know sometimes, yeah, I'll go see a bunch of movies, but I hadn't actually been to the cinema in like 2 or 3 months. Like really been to the cinema, and I was like, oh, I have nothing else to do today. Let's just see everything that's there. So
was this because the hockey just ate your life? Was it or?
Yeah, hockey season ended, so I'm kind of like,
oh, there you go.
Yeah. So there's nothing else to do. So I'm just like, oh, okay. It was actually, yeah. You know what? Yeah. That's probably what it was. All right. I was,
yeah.
You know,
I apologize to you, by the way, because I've been just talking with people like I know and out in the street, and kind of ice hockey mania is definitely spreading.
It's starting
socially throughout Dublin. I assumed that you were the only one, but I appear to be wrong, as I've known quite a few people who've travelled up to Northern Ireland to see matches now. Yeah,
well, look, one, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Two, I've seen that as well, because look, when I started going. Look, it was extremely popular. I'm not going to say that, you know, going up to Belfast or it wasn't popular. It always was. But you could always like get a ticket easy enough. Now, if you don't buy a ticket like a week out, and even sometimes that doesn't work, the ticket's gone. Like pretty much most of the games.
That is kind of representative of my experience. I know people who would have liked to have gone, but the tickets were sold out.
Yeah, but that's what's starting to happen. Because like when I got into it there heavily last year, you could like buy a ticket on the day. You know, it was still full, but it wasn't like sold out. And now pretty much every game is sold out. And it's not even in Belfast. It's if you go to Manchester as well, which is if I can't go to Belfast, I'll go to Manchester. And it's not just to go to the games. Like there's like hockey stores and stuff you can go to. But yeah, they just seem to like sell out now. So yeah, Hockey Mania is like really, really taking off. Yeah, it's really cool to see because that means you might actually get an ice rink. Because folks, you might actually notice the Republic of Ireland doesn't have a single ice hockey rink like in the entire country. It has 2 roller rinks and that's it. So we have
the pop-up ones for like ice skating.
Yeah,
but
Christmas, but like the ice in those, like I've really hurt my knee on one of them because the ice isn't great. You know, they're not really like, look, some pop-up ones in the UK, some permanent ones in the UK aren't great either, but at least the Zamboni is there and they're properly like maintained to some extent. The pop-up ones, it's kind of like a mixed bag thing, you know? And also like, you can't really train on that every year, like or every week, because you're supposed to go out and do training and you just can't. So, I mean, like our national team travels 10 hours a week to train. They go up and they come back. And it's just like, that's insane. So yeah, it's really good that like people are, you know, in Ireland, in the Republic are starting to like really catch it. And I think it's because it's funny. I think it's a combination of things. One, it's like a really, really cool sport. And when you go to it, you're like, oh my God, this sport is just, it kind of consumes you completely. You know, anyone who sees it just really gets into it. It's one of the things that you don't really understand until you're there. But also stuff like heated rivalry and the Olympics and that, like that made it a much, you know, brought in a whole new audience of people to just sit down and watch it. But it's funny because, and we will drop on this in a second, but, you know, a similar thing happened. There's a great video on YouTube where apparently in the early 90s, in the States, hockey signups and stuff are really, really low, like criminally low in the US. It wasn't really a thing. And then, you know what happened? You can probably guess what happened.
Go on, break the suspense.
It's exactly what you think it is. The Mighty Ducks came out, and the Mighty Ducks came out and changed everything. So because the Mighty Ducks exists, made hockey explode in the US, and like over like the 5 years after, it just grew to what it is now. And then obviously, like, because of that movie, Disney bought a franchise, and then the Ducks, that's the Anaheim Ducks, right? They're not owned by Disney anymore, but they were. And if you go to Anaheim, like Honda Stadium is like 5 minutes up the road, like, so they are pretty much linked together. It's pretty funny, but that, yeah, man, I mean, that's wild to hear. But then again, as somebody who's there at the games, like, not every week, but there was a period when, it depends, but like, I have seen it grow from strength to strength. So hopefully that means we'll actually get an arena soon. That'd be awesome. No, I don't even want a big arena. Just somewhere to see hockey and train hockey would be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I'm not even a very sporty person, but more public events, more culture. Certainly, I'm not going to be like watching like the Eurovision this year. So any kind of live event that maybe could put on TV as well. Like, yeah, more of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, that's the thing, it's one of those things where any kind of sport that has like that big of an interest should be catered for. And I mean, look, even from an economic standpoint, like, the amount of money that games generate, like, it's actually insane. Because when you go up, like, I mean, like, there's usually 2 games a week or something like that. There might be one, it depends. The weekends sometimes have back-to-backs, but usually you get one on Wednesday or whatever, right? But on a Sunday, the game starts at 4. And you walk in there, there's like 8,000 people. A lot of kids, a lot of families. And it's like a whole little economy that exists over in the O2. It used to be called the SSE. And it's just like, man, we're missing out. Like, we're completely, and then it's the same when you go to Manchester. It's just one of those things where it's like, we are missing out on this license to print money. I mean, like, it's not as expensive as the NHL, which is nice. Like, I think NHL games are like, cheap tickets are $200. You'll get your ticket for a Giants game for like £25. It's not an expensive day out. And the jerseys are like 50 quid, like pounds, so it's about €70. But it's all that stuff kind of adds up, and I'm just like, what are you waiting for? It's a license to print money. So much so that I actually wrote to the Minister of Sport and Culture and be like, dude, go up north, have a look, So, but it's mad because I've actually said that to people, or I've had this conversation with a couple of people in an Uber in Belfast, and they're like, yeah, they were saying it. Or I was at a game once and there was a couple of Irish people there, because it's mad. The most common thing you'll see at a Belfast Giants game now is, and you've said it, people from Dublin. It's just half your section will be people from Dublin.
I think the diehard fans might get a bit sick of it.
I don't know, man. I mean, it just consumes you. Like, it's one of those, like, I think that they've realised as well that you'll get some casual people, right? And they'll go on like a girls' night or a lads' night or whatever. But then one of them will stay and be super into it, and then they'll bring other people in. But what I've noticed, yeah, you'll still get that, and you always kind of got that, but you're getting people returning week after week after week, to the point that if you're getting food, or if you're getting a drink, or if you're in the store or whatever, you'll hear someone from Dublin, which is, it's mad. But like, by extension, because we don't have a team, we don't have a rink, blah, 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 our all Irish national team, like Ireland, the all Ireland team is a Belfast team. That's how it works out. It's wild. So if you're on the island of Ireland, you support the Belfast Giants. They managed to...
All right, we're going to have to start some sort of side podcast for this.
No, but they've managed
the wrestling one can take it back, yeah?
They've managed to unify the country. True hockey. Because it's funny, like, there's all that controversy with the national anthems and stuff like that with rugby, and then the separate football teams, and it's like, hockey's doing pretty well. Just do what they do, and you're fine.
I mean, I suppose, like, historically, we have kind of gravitated towards sports where you can hit things with sticks. It probably shouldn't be that big of a surprise.
Well, hockey was invented by an Irishman in Canada. That's who invented it.
know.
Yeah, it's literally ice hurling. So in Nova Scotia,
So hurling kind of is its ancestor, basically.
yeah, I mean, if you look at it, it's very, very similar to it. But apparently, what happened was there was a brother, in one of the priests that worked in a boys' school, and he moved to Nova Scotia, and he brought his hurls with him, and he taught the unfocused to play hurling, but the ground froze, and he just took the hurls out onto the ice, and it kind of developed from there. Because I mean, even the word puck, that's the strike in Irish. It's an Irish word. I'm
There's
just
a movie in there.
Yeah, look. There is, but there's also I don't understand how the Irish government aren't we could milk this for everything. It's they could just say Ireland, the actual home of hockey, and now every Canadian in the world, even though it's technically true, but also not. I mean, it's like that bit in The Simpsons, when they're like, oh, we can finally stop the lion, and it's like Springfield, the home of the Beatles.
Well, you know what? The second that an ice hockey pitch would be open in Dublin,
an ice hockey
the popularity bubble would burst, and no one would turn up.
See,
and it would be used to store chairs.
Maybe, but I don't believe so. It's this is the thing. It's an interesting question, right? Because the SSE, or the O2 now, as it's called, would host other things, right? It would host, host that K-pop concert. It hosted a phenomenal episode of WWE, right? WWE Raw, which was incredible to see. It actually looked like a million bucks. And if they use the arena correctly, not just for hockey or not just for skating or whatever, it would be fine, because you technically need two, because you need a smaller arena to train, and then or a smaller rink to train, and then you need a bigger arena. So either way, they would actually have to build two. And I think that's what they're looking to do. They're trying to make a full winter kind of sports thing. And that's a different business model. That could go either way. What I would say, and again, when I even pitched, was it's look, start small. Just build a small rink that does games and that you can skate with the public. They have a thing called Planet Ice in the UK. While those rinks aren't good, they're not brilliant, some of them actually are. Some of them are fantastic. Some of them not so much. And if you're a fan of certain hockey teams, you'll know which ones they are. But it kind of is what it is. It's just, I think it's about taking the risk and then seeing what happens. But at the same time, if you take a calculated risk and you weigh it out well, it actually could work. But it's Belfast, whatever they've done, they've cracked the code, because they have the Dundonald Ice Bowl, which is a smaller rink, and then you have the Giants Stadium. So, we'll see what happens, but definitely there is money to be made there. It'll be interesting to see, as you said, if the bubble bursts. If the bubble does burst, if you have a cool arena that can, you can go see shows in WWE. That's why we didn't get Raw, because we don't have a big arena. WWE could have brought one of the best episodes of its flagship show to Dublin. It had an Irishman in the main event, and they didn't, because we don't have the arena, and it's just it's all about how it's used, how it's managed. But I think at a small level, just make two small Planet Ices, in Cork and Dublin. See what happens. But anyway, that's what I would do. And look, I have already pitched this to our Minister for Sport. So email him. No, I'm deadly serious. Email him and tell him that you want to go, because, why not? It's the only way it's probably going to get done.
Plus, you could always have since we're sticking with Simpsons references, Spinal Tap situation where it's an ice hockey 6 days a week, and then, I don't know, poor Sabrina Carpenter has to come out on a damp stage or something like that,
Yeah, it's not the bloomin' Splish Splash show.
That's it.
But no, I have to say,
all right, well,
no, I do have to say, though, it is quite incredible when you're in the arena, because I went to the arena for the first time and I didn't know what it was, because I didn't watch hockey. I went for a WWE house show, and I was just how did you get rid of the rink? How is it so, it's not cold or anything, It really is incredible. So they do need to kind of hire people that know what they're doing, and that's kind of the problem with the temporary rinks. They're not really maintained well. So yeah, you'd get a lot of split splash there as a result. But anyway, let's move on.
Yes, sticking with kind of local Irish things, filmmaker Lee Cronin has a film with his name in it. Why don't you tell us about Lee Cronin's The Mummy?
So,
The big pause.
Yeah, so I kind of hated this movie.
Oh no!
And I'll tell you why. So I went in expecting a mummy movie, right? Not like Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, but like a movie about mummies, right? Scary movie. Like, this is terrifying. This is, some spooky stuff. It has some ancient Egyptian stuff. Ooh, that kind of thing. Like all the different aspects of it were there. And look, there's very little mummy in this mummy movie. To quote The Simpsons. And I was sitting there the whole time going, when are they going to get to the fireworks factory? Because so far we've had like 5 Simpsons references in this episode. Can we just say? And it's
this is what, like, if you do the collected show, what's going to be 55 minutes? The same for 1 minute.
Yeah, I think we're like,
on average. We might take a few minutes break and then do 5 in a row.
Yeah, because we're banging them out. But as I said, like
play along at home.
You'll win a T-shirt. T-shirts may not be honoured.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, as I said, I was expecting this movie to really be like a scary horror film, have some kind of cool grounding or whatever. And it just never happened. It had a cool opening where it was like, you're looking at this ritual and they're, the mummies come back and blah, blah, blah. And then it just cuts to this family and this girl just being kind of annoying and, her brother being even more annoying. And then she gets kidnapped and then it's like, oh, she's gone. And then they find her in a sarcophagus. And then it turns out she's weird. And then they're like, what's going on? And then it turns out that she's actually possessed by this demon. And you're like, okay, when is the mummy stuff going to happen? And it just kind of didn't. So I think that was the biggest problem. I went into this expecting one thing and I got another. And my expectations were subverted, but not in a way I wanted. Like, if I go see a movie called The Mummy, I want to see a mummy, like doing mummy things, not like a possession movie featuring like ritualized bandages and some Egyptian street scenes. It just flopped, I think it failed as a premise. It failed to be what it was. It failed to be a mummy movie. Now, look, you could say, well, the original mummy movies were kind of like that. And the Brendan Fraser movies were something completely different as well. It's like, yeah, but guess what? They had mummies in them doing mummy things.
Well, you've sort of hit on because this is the stumbling block that the Tom Cruise one hit as well.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. So, like, how do you do a mummy movie in this day and age? Because, like, the concept of, like, disturbing an Egyptian tomb and some ancient pharaoh coming after you, which is basically a skeleton wrapped in bandages, like, it kind of borders on insensitive and ridiculous. So how do you do a mummy movie in this day and age? Like,
I don't think it's insensitive or ridiculous, because the thing about it is, no, because the thing about
imagine it was like an Irish like Celtic tomb.
You didn't let me finish.
Okay, go on.
What I was going to say is the thing about ancient Egypt, and this is the thing that a lot of people, now this is tour guide me talking, right? The thing about ancient Egypt is most people don't realize that they actually did believe in magic. Like, magic wasn't a thing that they did. It was like they actually believed in it, right? And it was part of their whole culture, part of their whole like society was built based around magic. So like curses and things were all like a real thing for the ancient Egyptians. And I do think there's a good story there where you're like, you can build around, it doesn't have to be set in modern time. You can set it back where you're like, if I was going to make a modern mummy movie, right? I would never base it in modern time. There's no point. There's no reason. It's too, as you said, like it's insensitive in a sense, but it's also can go off track because you can't actually tell the story you want to tell. Because look, no one's going into the tombs now and disturbing stuff because we know better, right? But they did. If you want to have your horror movie about, like, there's a really good movie called The Pyramid that came out a couple of years ago, and they kind of hit this pretty well. It's very similar to a movie called As Above, So Below. Also hits it pretty well. That's based in the French tunnels, the underground catacombs, right? if you're going to base it in modern time, it has to be something like that where they're somewhere where they shouldn't be. And weird stuff happens, but it has to be like properly supernatural, sensitively. I think what they did here is more offensive because it's like, oh, it's an unnamed demon that we don't know from ancient Egypt. What are you talking about? It's like complete nonsense, right? They don't give you anything to hold on to. They don't give its name. They don't give its history. They don't tell you why it's bad. They don't tell you. All they say is, oh, it's really bad. And we have to put the bandages around to bind it into a human host. It's like, okay, I get that, but you know, it's very thin as a horror movie. You know, you need to know what's going on. I mean, like, imagine if you're watching The Exorcist and they're like, yeah, there's a demon doing some spooky stuff up there. And you don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
I mean, obviously you don't want to, like, exposit, like, the whole movie, but, like, no, but you need to be given enough information to know what to be frightened of. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine if you're watching it and, like, they took out all the stuff in the church. They took out the background, like, the religious side of it. They took out the family dynamic. And you just have, like, spooky stuff happening and disgusting stuff happening that doesn't really mean anything. And that's kind of what happened here. And it brings on to my next point where it was genuinely disgusting, right? Like there was bits in it where she's just removing her skin, and you're like, yeah, it's gross, but it's not.
It's shocking, but not scary. Like
it's not shocking. It's just kind of gross. You're just like, oh, this is pretty sick, you know. It's like I don't really want to watch this, you know. It's like I'm okay with body horror, and I don't really mind it, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't really want to watch a girl pick her skin off and like pull her toenail off and rip half her leg off. I'm like, this is kind of goofy. And then I realized who was making it. He's the guy who made Evil Dead Rises, which actually is a very good film. And that's the third. Hold on, and that's the third problem with this movie. Okay. The third problem with this movie is there's about a 15-minute sequence where it just becomes an Evil Dead movie, and I'm like, if I wanted to watch Evil Dead, I would just watch Evil Dead. And I think a combination of all of those, and you're on some great points, Keith. Keen, honestly, some really, really good points. I think, you know, doing a modern horror movie about mummies in modern times is very, very, very bad to do because you walk yourself into this trap. And I do think the only way to do it is like a bunch of kids break into a pyramid and they awaken an ancient curse. Because then you can actually deal with that. You don't even need to really talk about it because the setting kind of tells you what's going on. I think the problem here is it's threefold. One, it's just disgusting for no reason. Two, it has the world building is dog do. And three, it's an Evil Dead movie. So there you go. In a nutshell.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, because like kind of to circle back to the mummy thing, like, did you make it far enough into Doctor Who season 8 where there was a mummy episode in that one?
No, I didn't know.
It's a shame you didn't, because that episode, The Mummy on the Orient Express, bizarre as it sounds, uses mummies really well, because the way it works is the power flicks, then like a mummy appears, but only the person it's going to kill can see it, and in 56 seconds, it'll get you, no matter where you run and where you hide. And like, so there's like all these like rules, like you were saying earlier, where it's explained kind of not what it is, but how it works. And the fact that it's a mummy is like, you know, the Egyptian element isn't important. It's just like more like the film It Follows. It's just sort of a stalker thing. So there's another way you could do it. But I want to circle back, because you mentioned Evil Dead Rises. I haven't seen that one. I did see the first film that Cronin did, Hole in the Ground, which was really, really good. I saw it because an actor I directed was in it, and like she's on the poster, and like I was like, I wanted to see it, and it was incredible. So when a director like this, like, you know, it's out of the park with like an independent thing, and then they move over to like a franchise type thing like this, and the elements don't come together, a little alarm goes off in my head that kind of goes, how come the earlier stuff worked and now with a studio involved it doesn't? So what, like, it sounds to me, based on your complaints, that like this isn't a mummy movie. would this film bother you if it was called anything else?
Honestly, no. I mean, if this had just been Evil Dead in Egypt, like some kind, like, because that's kind of what it is, you know. It's like if it had like this same setup, right? Actually, you wouldn't have to change anything except for the name and the whole tune thing. Again, you're in Egypt. Like, okay, I'm going to rebook this to use a wrestling term, right? The movie starts off. Some kids are like some college students, right? Are in a museum after hours, and they're messing around with something, and they knock over like a canister, like one of the canoptic jars, and it breaks open. And they're like, "Oh no, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. And he puts stuff back, and the security guard runs over. He's like, "What's going on?" And then they run off. It infects the security guard. The security guard goes home to his wife, right? Kills his wife, and then it fast forwards, and the demon's in like same thing. Demon's in the daughter, right? 20 years later, she's an adult or whatever. There you go. Or you could do the same thing where she's a kid and they're trying to fight her and blah blah blah. Like, at least there's some kind of like link there. There's some kind of reason for it happening. How this whole thing set up is they find they have to sacrifice a human every 100 years or something, and it's just like, okay, but why? Like, what happened? It's just like, oh, it just exists that way, and you're like, yeah, that's a bit much, you know. It just doesn't work, you know. And then the fact that they have no religious undertones to it, like there's no priests or imams or rabbis or spiritual. Anyway, it's literally just, here's a demon, we got to sacrifice to the demon. And you're like, okay, yeah, but you haven't tried anything else. It's like you've gone straight from the demon to give it a soul. Because
everything you're describing, it feels like the family story element seems sound.
Yeah.
It just seems like their energy is being put in the wrong places. Like,
yeah, as I said, like it's, you don't really have to change that much to make this movie work, but you definitely can't call it The Mummy, and you definitely can't, like, it just if it collapses on its own weight, because like there is the bit where the grandmother's very religious. And it responds every time, like the demon responds every time she prays or whatever, right? And it's like, oh, you're so close. You're so close to it. Like, they touch off it and then go, oh, let's go away. And you're like, okay, why even flirt with it if you're not going to even try it, you know? And I think that's the problem as well. Like, as you said, like, you brought up a good point, and I don't think you were wrong, but I think it's less the sensitivity of it. It's more like, oh, people don't want to see that now these days. And it's like, oh, I would argue you're wrong. Like, with, it's just the setting of it. It has all the hallmarks of like a good horror movie or a traditional possession movie, but just won't lean into it. Like, there's a really, really good movie, came out a couple of years ago. Like, by a couple of years ago, I mean like nearly 20 years ago at this point. But it's I think it's called The Possession or something like that, and it's about it's a Jewish possession movie, which I've never seen before. So it's the same kind of things that you would see, but they bring in a rabbi to do the exorcism, for want of a better word, right? And it's like, it still works because it's like you have some kind of, I think if you're going to do any kind of demon movie that isn't the Evil Dead, because, it's the Evil Dead, right? It's silly, goofy nonsense, right? But if you want something to be scary, there needs to be this element. And unfortunately, this element just doesn't have it. And I think it's a good case study, because when you see it, you're like, oh, okay, it's not scary, and it's kind of stupid. And then when it gets gross, you're like, oh, it's kind of gross too. It's like, The Exorcist scares me, right? And the movie we're talking about in a bit really scared the hell out of me. But I'll go back and watch those. I won't watch them all the time, but I'll go back and watch them, because they're good films and they're well made, and they're thought provoking, and they have all this. But then if you want to be scared, you'd be like, oh, I want to watch, these movies. With this one, I never want to watch this again. I never want to think about it again. I think it's garbage, and it didn't have to be. It didn't have to be. It's just dull as dishwater, gross nonsense.
Well, that's a shame because like we want to support like Irish directors moving up.
Well, okay, you know what?
I do hope this is a situation of studio interference or something like that.
I think so, but this isn't the first time this happened. Like, there's a great director, Kieran Foy. He directed a really good movie called The Citadel, right? And then they brought him on to direct Sidious 2. And Sidious 2 is terrible. That is
This is what I mean. You know,
terrible.
it's kind of like the way the Marvel movies will hire the indie directors, but basically half of it will be made before they get there. And like they go, oh, but this is the bit where you can put your style, that kind of thing. You know?
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. I mean, it's a shame that happened to, you know, again, like you want to support Irish directors. But the thing about it is, it's like, lads and ladies, if you're making a possession movie, you need to have the elements of a possession movie. You know, you can't or like, again, this should have just been an Evil Dead Egypt, right? It would have worked perfectly. Yeah, it's just garbage. It has no emotional weight to it at all.
Well, then let's swap to another film. What about They Will Kill You?
Oh, this was a fun movie, dude. This was a fun movie. One of my favorite.
I'm just admiring the cast. I haven't seen it, but the cast list is fantastic.
Oh my God. It's a fantastic movie. And the thing about it is, it's like, I wanted to see it for a while. I didn't realize I would like it as much as I did. And, oh man, one of the best movies that I've seen in a long, long, long time. Right? It's stupid. It's goofy nonsense, but it's just really fun. It's just really fun. So basically, it's a woman. She's trying to seek out her sister. She ends up in a satanic cult hotel, basically, and they're not vampires, but you know they can't be killed. So the only way you can kill them is you can't. You just can't kill them because they're immortal. They just like they get. There's a lot of Deadpool references in this where they get their head blown off and they just come back together. Eyes are rolling around. Tom Felton's hilarious in it. Heather Graham plays a good spot. You know, it's the girl who plays the main character, Asia Reeves, is really, really good. She was in Deadpool.
Zazie Beetz.
Yes, exactly. She played Domino.
Yes,
in Deadpool.
And she's in loads of things. She's in Invincible. She's in the Bullet Train. Yeah, she's been popping up in. Apparently she's in. Of course, she's in Joker as like the imaginary girlfriend. Sorry, spoiler.
Yes. I forgot about that.
Yeah. She's been kind of quietly like bad guys and bad guys too. She's been working her way up for a while, like.
But you can definitely see how her work in Deadpool kind of influenced this. You know, this is. It feels really like Deadpool, you know, and obviously, look, you know, she's in it, but you know, that's kind of where it begins, where it begins and ends. But at the same time, it's just one of those films where you're like, oh yeah, either the idea for this came up when you guys were in Deadpool, or they had the idea and they're like, oh, we'll go get her, you know. So it's one of those movies where it's just stupid, gory nonsense, but it's extremely satisfying, right? Like the story's kind of stupid, but the world makes sense. You're like, oh yeah, all right. It's a hotel where they sign a deal with the devil, and then they get supernatural powers, but they have to sacrifice somebody every year. It's, you know what it is? It's very much like The Mummy, but the world building makes sense, right? Because at one point, at the end of it, they go to like the figurehead of the devil, which is a pig's head, and they have to write their name on it and then kill someone. And you're like, okay, the rules now make sense. And it is kind of a counterpoint to The Mummy, where it's like, do you see how you can tell any story you want once the world makes sense and we know what the rules are? Because you know what the rules are very early on. You're like, oh, it's a satanic oven or a satanic cult. You kind of know what's happening here. And then it builds and builds and builds and builds. But the framing of it's really fun. But what I thought was more fun was the actual like kills in it and the fight scenes. You know, and just the shock of it as well. Like Tom Felton gets his head blown off and like, you know, gets killed almost immediately. Heather Graham gets her head blown off almost immediately, and you're like, oh my God, what happened?
Is it too late to say spoilers?
No, I didn't spoil anything. Don't worry. But it's
you didn't.
No, they can't die. They come back. That's what I'm saying. You know, it's just like,
of course. Yeah. You know? Sorry. Continue.
And it's one of those things. That's what I'm saying to you, though. You're like, oh my God, what? Like when Tom Felton died, like again within the first like 10 minutes, I was like, that's weird. You said, so what is that a cameo? And then when he came back, I was like, oh no, this is what's going on. You know, it's
right.
It puts you in this ridiculous situation, but doesn't it doesn't take shortcuts to get there. You know, it's like you go on this journey with Asia. Very, very good. It's like Deadpool meets Kill Bill. That's kind of the vibe that it is, and I really, really liked it. So, if you get a chance to see it now, I know it's only on, like, it's almost on the way out theaters, but definitely if you get a chance to see it, you'll love it. It's really fun.
I'm intrigued. What about Undertone then?
This is the scariest movie I've seen all year.
Ooh, now you're talking.
It scared the hell out of me, right?
And you have fairly like thick skin for this kind of stuff. Like.
Yeah, I love horror movies, right? I love horror movies, and it takes a lot to scare me. That's what I'm saying. Like, the tagline is the scariest movie you'll ever hear. And I never want to watch this movie again, but I also really can't wait to watch it again. But I'm terrified to watch it again. So it's a bit, and okay, it's probably just my own makeup, but it's about a podcaster doing a podcast, right? So, I mean, we're doing it now. And when she sits down...
I was going to say, this hits a bit close to home.
This is what I'm saying. It hits a bit close to home, right? And I'm just like, yeah, I suppose it is a bit weird. So, you know, so her mom is dying, and she's slowly dying. And it is really awful, you know, to see that. But she's doing a podcast with her friend, and they do like a spooky podcast. That's their content, right? And they're sent 10 recordings of a pregnant couple's paranormal events, and each show that they do is like one of the recordings, and it's just them going through, like, it's a very small movie, which is, you know, I really love these little small movies where, you know, it's a house, it's a room, you know, it's just a little small slice of what's going on, because the character work is phenomenal. I'm
just looking. So, is it true there's only 2 characters on screen?
Yeah, tiny movie, right? But I really, really liked it. And Ivy is the girl's name. It's Nina Kirk. She plays a blinder, right? Fantastic. So she's sitting there, and they're talking about they're listening to what's going on. And it is very disturbing, you know. Then they stop doing the show, and weird stuff starts happening. And as they keep doing more and more and more of these audio files in the show, more and more weird stuff starts happening. And man, it just got me. Like,
it sounds like an audio play, basically.
It kind of is, yeah. It kind of is. But the fact that the framing of it, where like the girl is sitting at her Mac, talking into a microphone, doing a show. It's just, again, look, I don't know, if you don't do a podcast or a radio show, maybe that will be lost on you, but again, it hits very close to home. It's based in a house, so if you played the game Slender, the 8 pages, where, you know, that game is, or even PT, the demo that came out like 10 years ago, where it's in a house, and the scary factor is it's in a house, but things are kind of off. There's a lot of like, the Virgin Mary imagery in this as well, because they're Catholic and that kind of gets twisted, and it's just real scary, man. Like, they managed, it's so subtle, and it's so well paced, and it's so thick, as far as like, they don't just go from, oh, you know, everything's fine, to, oh, scary. It's like, no, it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and then at the end of it, like, they just twist the whole podcast thing in on itself. It's a phenomenal movie. Genuinely,
Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, if you get a chance to see it, you definitely have to. I've never seen a movie use sound so well. Like, yeah, it has like some of the tropes of it. And it is a little bit tropey, but it's just one of those movies where if you're in the right mindset for it, it will just hit you hard. And yeah, look, you know, you've seen this stuff before, but I've never seen it done this well with something, you know, as mundane as podcasting or sound design. Unbelievably good.
It kind of sounds like, do you ever see that film, The Vast of Night?
I've not, no.
It's similar vibe. It's on, I think it's on Prime Video. But basically, it's a very similar premise, except it's set in the 1950s, I think. Anyway, it's about 2 kind of like amateur, like kind of radio kind of DJ people who they happen to be doing like the night shift in a radio station, and they intercept like a strange communication that implies that like aliens are flying over the town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about them being on the radio, contacting other radio stations, hearing stories from people, visiting people, like listen to their stories. And for the most part, it's all just long takes of people with headphones in rooms with very little interruption. And like you were saying about that, it's kind of like, even though it's a visual thing, because it's so static, you just sort of get drawn into the soundscape of it, you know?
Mm-hmm. But that's it. I mean, that's what makes it feel real. You know, like, you know, not to take away from what people may or may not believe, but when I watch a film or engage with any kind of work of fiction, if the logic of the world makes sense, you can kind of believe anything. Yeah. You know, you can kind of get into it. And Undertone also sets this tale where it, you know, it doesn't feed you exposition, even though you think it's someone listening to someone on a podcast. It's all going to be, expository. It's really not. Like, they named the demon in this, and the host is pregnant, finds out she's pregnant, and the demon causes miscarriages, and that's what was invited in. And you're like, whoa, you know, it's so subtle. It builds, and the world just kind of clicks together because they didn't take shortcuts. It just allows itself to breathe. The creepy atmosphere of it is unlike anything I've felt before. And look, The Guardian didn't like it, but they're wrong. Trust me, if you heard somebody say this was not a good movie, it definitely is worth your time. But you know how to make this movie even scarier? Watch it at night with headphones on.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, it sounds like this is a movie that wouldn't be the same either on a dinky TV or in a second screen kind of way. It sounds like the cinema is in a kind of immersive environment, is the right place to see this. Yeah.
No, I really, really enjoyed it. It was the best horror movie I've seen all year. Actually, in a couple of years, I'll be honest with you.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what then, is that I think that's all the films. Yeah. Will we quickly do a little round out on Star Wars then?
Yeah, but before we do, I saw Akira again.
Oh, yes, of course. I completely missed that on my list. I'd love to hear about Akira. Please go on.
So you've seen Akira, right?
Not in years, but actually, weirdly enough, I actually just finished reading Akira from the library. So I just recently finished the manga.
So I've seen Akira many times over the past 20 years, right? As you do, you know, like we're of the generation that, you know, there was no streaming. That you'd buy your Manga Force magazine and they'd send you some anime, right? And the first one you discover is Akira, right? It's Super Eye Patch Wolf is it's the anime that changed everything. And he's right. I mean, if you haven't seen that documentary or that video that he did, it's unbelievably good. You really should watch it. I mean, Super Eye Patch Wolf, I've fallen back in love with. I didn't fall out of love with him, but I just haven't watched his content in a while, and I'm like, oh, it's time.
I was actually just doing one of his regular eye patch ones right before we hopped on.
Oh, they're really good as well. Yeah, his content is so good. I really, if you guys aren't listening to Super Eye Patch Wolf or regular Eye Patch Wolf, do. He's an Irish YouTuber, and he's just fantastic. His content's incredible.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this popped up, and I was like, oh man, I haven't seen Akira in a while. I'll go watch it. I went to go see it in the cinema that was local to me. And again, you know what? It's like that bit in The Simpsons again. I think this is a record where he watches Twin Peaks and he's like, "Brilliant! I have no idea
what's going on." Yes,
that's Akira for me. I've been watching this movie for 20 years. I have no idea what that movie's about.
Yeah, well, if I can kind of add in here, before you get to it, I recently read the Akira manga because I got it out of the Dunleary Library. And it was 3 massive volumes, each volume as thick as the Bible. And when you read it, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But the more you read it and the longer you read it, you're like, how did they get this into an 1.5-hour movie?
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling how much world building there is in that to rush in. What was your kind of takeaway from it?
Again, as I said, you're watching and you're like, this is incredible, but I have no idea what's going on. And it is a spectacle when you see it. when you see it as a kid on TV, you're like, okay, I get this is awesome. But, you know, when you watch it on a massive screen, surrounded by people who also love this movie, you have a new appreciation for it. But again, I walked out of it going, I have no idea what this movie's about. I don't understand it. You know, I don't know. You feel something, but you don't really get it. You know, look, obviously there's the post-nuclear hangover stuff. There's, you know, the fear of technology, fear of government, fear of overreach with the military, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. That's obvious, right? But there's something else underneath that movie that it just taps into. And when you're watching it, you go on an experience and you go on a journey. But at the same time, I don't think I'll ever understand that movie. And I hope I'm not.
I mean, that's the handy. Well, the handy thing about Akira is even if you don't understand the specifics of what's going on, it's a bit like Evangelion in that way, which is equally confusing. But basically, you get the gist of like, this is like a post-nuclear fallout. Mm-hmm. Our point of view characters are the kids who have grown up in a world that was always post-nuclear fallout. There is a dodgy regime trying to hold everything together, and it's about the push and pull of those forces. Even if you don't understand why there are tiny people with psychic powers, I think you get the overall atmosphere of it, you know? Yeah, you do. And I have a bit more of appreciation for it based on just how the world is. And when you grow up, you see things that you didn't really see before, you know? But yeah, I was actually going to say, it's like Evangelion, but the thing about Evangelion is, I think there is more of an entry point with it. Like there's a really good YouTube channel, and I recommend everyone check out this video. It's like, what was it, when weapons kill the gods, or when gods can die. It's one of them. And basically it discusses Evangelion in detail, and it's like, what happens when you create weapons that are for killing gods or made of them? Because obviously in Evangelion that's what they are, right? They're angels fused into technology. It's a bit more opaque. It's a bit more like, you know, with this though, you're like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, you know, obviously, okay, Akira is an entity, some kind of deity almost, and it's infesting. It wants to be revealed, but it was supposed to be dead, blah, blah, blah. And you kind of get that, but at the same time, I don't even think that matters. It's one of the only times when you're watching something, you're like, even though I don't understand the story fully, you still know you're witnessing a masterpiece. And that's where I am with it. Maybe watching it for another 20 years, I'll understand it, but definitely if you haven't seen Akira, go see it. And it's not just, and it's one of those ones that rattles around your brain for weeks afterwards.
Oh, like, 20 years. 20 years. You know, as I said, it's like, every time I see it, it's like the first time I've seen it. So, incredible, really is. And in case that, I know, because Kev will crucify us if we don't mention it, let it not be said, the animation, you know, gorgeous, set the standard for the entire industry. So many scenes, like, you know, set at night, which is the hardest one to illustrate and color in and all that. Like, you have, whether you realize it or not, you have seen something reference that scene where the bike skids sideways. Even the bloody Clone Wars did it. Yeah. Like, it's one of those ones, it's one of those, like, special movies where when you watch it, you realize, oh, those 5 things I love are also influenced by this. There's just, like, you definitely need to see it at least once in your life. I'm going to steal a line. This is your favorite anime creator's favorite anime. That's it. That is a good way of putting it, yes. Yeah. And again, as I said, if you haven't seen it, like my cousin, she's big into anime. And she'd be like, have you seen this? I'm like, yeah, you know. And I texted her when I was in the cinema. I was like, you need to watch Akira. Have you seen it? And she was like, no. I'm like, you need to watch Akira. You know, it's like, so as I said, if there's younger fans listening of anime, go watch Akira. Genuinely, it's one of those movies that you have to watch. It's an educational experience, but it's also just, it set the standard. And if you don't want to do that, fair enough. Go watch Super Eye Patch Wolf's video on it. Will link it in the description. It's unbelievable. But look, we are running out of time. I want to mention one thing before we move on to some Star Wars. Speaking of Irish movies, right? There's an Irish, I don't know if it's an Irish movie fully, but it is based in Ireland. Well, Damien McCarthy, he's more than likely Irish, right? Actually, I'm going to just Google that and see if he actually is, because I don't want to. Oh yeah, he's Irish, all right. Yeah. Oh my God. He made Caveat. Oh, Caveat's unreal. Okay, yeah. No wonder this movie's so spooky. All right. So this movie's called Hokum, right? And it stars Adam Scott. So Adam Scott from Parks and Rec, from Severance.
Right. Yeah.
Anytime he isn't in like in a movie like Parks and Rec, I'm immediately like, oh, okay.
Isn't he in Madam Web?
He's in Madam Web. Yes, he is. So that's
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben. So that's why, that piqued my interest immediately. And I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely going to watch a movie with him in it, because he's usually the best part of anything he's in, including Man and Web, right? Then I saw the trailer for it, and it's the most Irish thing in the world. So it makes sense that the director is like legitimately Irish. Like he's like, and he brought that with him. And it's such a hard thing to do in a horror movie where, when you see, what's that movie? The terrible one that was based in Ireland that we made fun of for ages.
Oh, that could be any of them.
Yeah, so that's my point. That's my point, right? There you go. I haven't said any more than that. When Hollywood does Ireland, it seems to just fail, right? Even Rawhide, a movie that Clive Barker made in the 80s. Good movie. Terrible depiction of Ireland. But for some reason, this director, Damien McCarthy, actually gets it. And if you haven't seen Caveat, it's on Shudder. You should watch that movie. That movie is freaky as all hell. And it taps into the Irish psyche. So when I watched the trailer on this, I was like, I need to see this film. So it's out on the 1st of May. So it's next weekend. I cannot wait to see this film. This movie looks like it's going to be a masterpiece. I really, really like the work of this director. I didn't realize it was this director, but now that I do know who it is, if you haven't seen Caveat, watch that. Hokum, definitely one to watch.
Excellent. Do we have time for a bit of Star Wars talk?
We always have a bit of time for Star Wars talk.
Okay. Well, have you seen, I'm always forgetting the title of this, Mole Shadow Lord on Disney Plus?
I really want to. I'm a big fan of Sam Worthington, so I will watch it. I just haven't yet.
Well, yeah, this is it's there's 6 episodes out. They're dropping 2 episodes a week. I've only seen 5 of them owing to active toddler. But yeah, this one kind of caught me off guard because it seems to be part of Disney. I'm not sure if you've been following all of it, but Disney seemed to have sort of abandoned we're going to make 3 seasons of a show type approach to Star Wars, like 3 seasons of the Bad Batch.
Right.
Now they kind of are doing more like short form things, like, Tales of the Underworld, Tales of the Jedi,
right,
like a movie here and there, that kind of stuff. And this seems to fit more into that because I don't know how many episodes there are total. 10 episodes are going to be. But this so far is like a story set all on one planet. And we're in that time period where the Empire has just taken over, but it's kind of well before like A New Hope, kind of that little in-betweeny period.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you have this premise where we have a sort of a dingy planet and the Empire exists. They're technically in charge of it, but they don't have boots on the ground. And Darth Maul starts popping up and he is going after all the crime gangs that live on the planet or like that are running operations on the planet because they messed him over in the Clone Wars. And so the local police are trying to track him down because if he causes too much attention, the Empire is going to come in and basically turn it into a dictatorship. At the same time as that, you have like, one of the surviving youngling Jedi running around the place and he's trying to recruit her into his fold and all that kind of stuff because he has a little gang of his own. So what I really like about it is a couple of things, which is that it has the vibe of like, you'd know better than me, kind of a 90s Star Wars novel where it's told from 5 or 6 points of view. It's kind of grungy, but it very much isn't the Jedi go out and do this and here's the bad guy and save the day. It's got all the criminal elements I like, but it's also kind of being told from a few different points of view. It has that little flair of that Andorness to it. The planet it's set on is awesome. It's all set in one location, apart from like one tiny little jaunt so far. And like you really get a sense of like what the geography of the city is like and underneath it and all that. And the show is gorgeous. All of the like fights when they pop up are really, really well done. All the action's well done. And even though it's kind of the House Star Wars, Clone Wars style, there's a slight, maybe you know the term better than me, there's a slight quality to the animation where it looks a little bit like a watercolor painting. Every time you pause it,
I know.
Look at Maul's face. It looks like it's been sort of like the lines are just slightly blurry.
But that's kind of
Gives it that's
kind of what they've done with the cell design as well. They've, you know what it is, they've made it more primal. Like in his lightsaber has his scream in it as well. So I think like again, it's a pretty cool way of doing it. They have made his story. They made his story mirror his mind, where he is slightly cracked, because I mean, if you've seen Darth Maul, like his whole arc is about him being broken, and I think it's really cool. So yeah, I really want to see it. I just haven't had the chance yet, but I'm sure it's phenomenal.
Well, I mean, you're just as well to wait in a way, because if you wait 2 weeks, all 10 episodes will be out.
Yeah, well, that's what I was hoping for anyway.
But I'm really, really enjoying it so far. I know that I'm a bit like more gentle on Star Wars than you anyway.
Right.
But I've been really, really impressed. It feels like this, you can put this next to the stuff like, it's weird because like Andor and Rebels run simultaneously and overlap plot points at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And this series feels like the midpoint between those two, where it is dark, it is heavy, but not oppressively so. It has that jubilant Star Wars quality, even though it's like telling a heavier story, if you get me.
I get you. But that's what's needed. I mean, look, the upside of having Dave Filoni running Star Wars is now he's just going to tell you the story that, you know, that he wants to tell. There's actually going to be planning. There's going to be, you know, you might not like it, but you still get something that's an actual story, not just random nonsense we're booking at the last minute. So, and actually, we'll leave it on this. If you think I'm joking, what's the guy's name that played, not Finn, Poe, Isaac?
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac, there you go. He came out this week and he was like, we only found out that everything
the reshoots.
We only found out about they were changing everything, and then they did a bunch of reshoots. So that somehow Palpatine Return was a reshoot.
Yeah, my wig was convincing, wasn't it?
But there you go, folks. That's why it was so bad. There was no plan.
I know we're running up on time, but can I say one thing about the Maul show that overlaps with what you were saying earlier?
Of course, go on.
Episode 3 is him basically trying to lure this Jedi apprentice into being his apprentice, you know. And for the most part, that entire episode is just her in a long hallway with no light holding his lightsaber. And you just hear his voice from the left, from the right, from above, from below. And that's pretty much the whole episode for about 20 minutes. So, like, there is kind of cool, spooky elements to it as well. Like, I think you're going to like it.
I'm really looking forward to it. I'm glad to hear that, man, because it's one I wanted to see for a while. I'm a big fan of Sam, so like anytime
Whitwer.
Yeah, anytime he's in anything is great. Like plays one of my favorite Star Wars characters. So I just want Starkiller in something though. So hopefully this will get us closer to it. But look, man, that's it. We've hit time. Let's bring her home.
Excellent. Well, do all the social doobly-doos then.
Yes, sir. So, folks, thank you so much to everybody who subscribed on YouTube. This week has been our most successful week ever. So, thank you so much. It's so cool to see everyone interacting and subscribing. Again, if you're listening to us on Phoenix and you're like, what are you talking about? Nerd to Know Media. Nerd to Know Media on YouTube. Nerd to Know Media everywhere. But that's where you'll be able to find us. There's obviously the Wrestling Rewind, and then there's clips from the show as well. So go over there, leave your comments. Everything we talked about will be there. And the best thing about it is it's all free. Spotify as well. So, yeah, there you go.
Woohoo! All right, until next time, I've been Cian.
I've been Dara.
And we've been Nerd to Know Media, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.